Proponents of anti-parasitic drug ivermectin, which has been touted as something of a miracle drug and possible treatment for COVID-19, have been making a lot of noise about the drug recently, despite a lack of clinical trials on its use and effectiveness to treat the coronavirus. The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, SAPHRA, hasn't approved ivermectin for human use, citing issues around the lack and quality of existing trials. But a growing number of people are calling for its use in COVID-19 treatment globally and here in South Africa. SAPHRA Forum has brought an urgent court application against SAPHRA and Health Minister Zweli Mkhize over the use of ivermectin for COVID-19. It says SAPHRA has failed to approve applications by doctors which were brought in terms of Section 21 of the Medicines and Related Substances Act. And this as the University of the Free State prepares clinical trial protocol to determine ivermectin's efficacy for COVID. When it comes to the COVID pandemic in general, though, the one thing that really fascinates me is just how we as lay people are discussing and talking about medical science and specifically things like medicines and vaccines. And I guess it's because, in part, it's impacting all of us so dramatically, but also because it's a novel virus. And so there is so little that is actually established about how to go about treating and eventually solving for this pandemic. And the ivermectin debate has really just personified this. Is it a wonder drug or a silver bullet? Well, let's introduce our panel to help shed some light on this issue. Dr. Boitumelo Semeti Makokotlela, CEO of the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. Dr. Nasiba Katrada is a GP, a coordinator of Durban Home-Based Management System and founder of the ICMD Ivermectin Can Make a Difference group. Daniel Eloff, attorney at Herta Spes, one of the attorneys working on the application brought by Dr. Kutsia and two COVID-19 patients, and SAPHRA Forum to declare that ivermectin be allowed for use of COVID-19 treatment. And Shabnam Mohammed, who is an activist, journalist, non-practicing attorney and founder of SAHPRA, a rapidly growing civil society advocacy group that now has over 55,000 members. Dr. Semeti, perhaps you could just kick us off here. Have you ever encountered this before, where the public, where lay people are so strongly opinionated about a particular drug?
No, thank you very much for that. Yes, we have, and the public continues to be interested in many developments, and specifically now with COVID, it's not just the drug, but initially it was the in vitro diagnostic tests, etc. But also we appreciate the input and the feedback that we're getting from the public. So we have indeed, in the past dealt with such matters, but I think this one in particular is quite acute because there isn't a proven treatment that exists for ivermectin. And so it does require that all of us are very open-minded about how we approach this. And if I can just share, we indicated in our previous press release that we will be reviewing the latest data that comes through. We did review some data on Friday. There was a publication from Dr. Hill. Some of you may have seen the NHI statement, etc. And very soon, hopefully before the end of the day, we will be issuing another press statement because we want to live true to the fact that the minute there's data that comes out, we will review that and communicate with the public.
Now, perhaps it's good to take a step back for the viewers here. Dr. Katrada, if we talk about ivermectin, what do we know about ivermectin and its use in humans and primarily as this anti-parasitic drug?
Well, firstly, what we do know for a fact is that ivermectin is a safe drug. It's been around for 40 years. That's it's slightly younger than me. So it is a safe drug and it's been used. And right now with this pandemic, the only certain thing is its uncertainty. And what we're asking for as a group of doctors is give us the option to use it. We're not saying it's a silver bullet. We're not calling it a miracle drug. We're saying give us back the trust so that we can use it and treat our patients as best as we can. And when we were supposed to follow the rules where SAPHRA says within 48 hours, turn around, apply for a Section 21. Firstly, if anybody sat down and applied for a Section 21, trust me, it's tedious. I've done it myself twice. I'm waiting for a week now. I haven't even got acknowledgement of receipts from SAPHRA, and one of my patients is in ICU. And I've sent one of them urgent to SAPHRA, apply for a Section 21. The family is desperate to try it because, like you said, there's nothing certain about this, and they want hope. If that person does die, they want to say, we've done everything that we can for our dad, for our mom, to make sure that they didn't, We don't want to say, if only I could have used ivermectin. We're not saying that it can be, that it's going to save lives. We're saying give us an opportunity to try that because it's a safe drug.
On that point, and Dr. Samete, perhaps to come back to you on that, how does a Section 21 work and why is it taking longer, seemingly, than the prescribed 48 hours?
Yeah, I think the specific challenge with this drug is that there's insufficient data that enables us under the Section 21 process because we still need to review the data. There's insufficient data that indicates what doses are to be utilized. If you look at a lot of the scientific studies, they're saying the clinical trials that were conducted did not have standardized dose finding. So that's one of the issues. So what dose would we then be recommending or at least approving under the Section 21? The other matter that needs to be considered is in what cases of clinical conditions. So would it be for mildly symptomatic? Would it be for those that are in ICU, etc.? And we've been quite clear. Even with the Section 21 applications, which we do, thank you for the submission thereof, we are saying that it is important that there's the clinical benefit that's demonstrated in those applications. So this Section 21 for ivermectin is taking us a lot longer than what we typically do for Section 21 because we're having to mine the data and also saying how do we ensure that we enable and are not a barrier. And we've heard from the medical community. And that's why I'm saying we will be issuing another press statement today because we've heard, we've listened, and we understand the challenges that they're faced with because there isn't an alternative that's available.
If it has been used for 40 years, Dr. Samete, and it is used safely, where are the gaps in the data? What is the uncertainty that you are looking to solve for through this data analysis?
Sure. So with every drug, and I mean, we've seen particularly with COVID where drugs are being repurposed, right? So this is a drug that the doctors correctly is correct in saying it's been used for many years. It is generally regarded safe, but for specific conditions at specific doses. We do not have sufficient data that says it is a safe drug at this point, but also we need to know at what doses it would then need to be administered. So for its application, whether for prevention or for treatment of COVID, there isn't sufficient data. But for other tropical diseases, like it was being used for many years, that has been indicated. If I can just add, the other challenge which is unique to South Africa, that you don't find in other countries and why there isn't so much noise around ivermectin in other countries, is that in other countries it is registered for human use. So very rigorous review of its safety profile, etc., has been done by those regulators. And now it's being used off-label. And because we don't have it registered in South Africa for human use, the doctors then cannot use it off-label because then we cannot apply that mechanism. That's what's unique with the South African context.
Shabnam, just to bring you in on this point, and then we'll come back to you, Dr. Kathrada. There is something called the Helsinki Declaration, which dates back to 1964. What does the Helsinki Declaration say about the abilities of doctors to use unregistered medications if they feel that it is providing relief for their patients?
Well, absolutely. Article 37, the Helsinki Declaration is a groundbreaking declaration to which South Africa is a signatory in terms of the World Medical Association. And Article 37 is very clear. It speaks to unproven interventions in clinical practice. In the treatment of an individual patient, where proven interventions, and I say that very tongue-in-cheek, because we know it's working on the ground, do not exist or other known interventions that be ineffective, the physician, with informed consent, may use an unproven intervention if in their judgment it offers hope of saving life, reestablishing health, or alleviating suffering. It's a little longer than that. And of course, all new information must be recorded as the treatment continues. And certainly South Africa is saying we subscribe by the WHO. We have to subscribe by the Helsinki Principle. And I know that AfriForum has included that particular principle in their application, which is an urgent one. But just to come back to Dr. Samete, for the fact that SAPHRA is saying we don't have the research, it's shocking and horrifying, Dr. Samete, because other countries are way ahead of us. The research has started coming out on ivermectin from at least April last year for COVID-19. And in fact, we hosted people like Dr. Paul Merrick, who's a specialist and has derived the Math Plus and iMaths Plus protocol. If you goes to the flccc.net website, you're going to find all of the information you need. And he said specifically, it is absurd that ivermectin has become a political, economic issue. This is science and medicine. Ivermectin is a wonder drug. His word. It's cheap and it works, and that's why it's being blocked. It defies logic that it's not been rolled out already. So, of course, there's several questions that need to be asked here. And some of them have been raised by Dr. Andrew Hill, the very person whose report the SAPHRA is actually waiting for. And he said, if you roll out ivermectin too late, you could be a monster. Denying access to a life-saving drug, and anyone calling for new clinical trials raises all sorts of questions. We can't afford to do this. The public is incensed. SAPHRA is under pressure. We need to listen to what the doctors are saying, and that's the position of SAHRA, the advocacy group that I'm a founder of. You're quite right, over 55,000 members, over 50,000 signatures. The voice of the people has got to be heard.
And that is an impassioned plea, but at the same time, one has to follow due process. Dr. Semete, why is it taking so long, considering that other countries have registered this, that understandably you as a health regulator want to ensure that this is safe for consumption, but that doctors are prescribing this on the ground, even if it's off-label, it is apparently working, and there does seem to be due cause to speed up any kind of investigation, considering the scale of this particular pandemic. Why is it taking so long?
Thank you for that. And I just want to correct a statement around the scientific data. And if you look at the preprint that came out from Dr. Andrew Hill last week, Wednesday, and we reviewed it it came out last week, Thursday, we put together an expert committee team. You will see in his abstract, he clearly says that the clinical trials were not properly designed, they're not properly powered, and the data that's contained in that review is insufficient to enable a regulator to make a decision. This is very clear in his article. But also other regulators, if you look at the NHI statement, they're saying there is no evidence of showing whether they are for or against. So they've taken a neutral position. So we have considered not only that data, but other data that has come out. Later on today, we will be engaging with South African researchers that are looking to conduct clinical trials. Because again, we've indicated that we want to support that. We want to encourage that so that we have properly powered studies. What we have done, and I wouldn't say we're taking long in this, we were very clear that whatever data that comes out, we will review. We reviewed that data, and there will be a press statement that goes out today. So we have been very clear in terms of the approach. But if you read the literature in detail, and I make reference to this paper by Dr. Andrew Hill, he clearly says in his abstract, page 1 of this, it is not sufficient for a regulatory decision. I also want to highlight that in other countries, this is a drug that is registered for human use. That's why it can be used off-label. If that was the case in South Africa, it would be used off-label. But it's not the case. It's not registered for human use. And there's a difference between a Section 21, a full market authorization, but also another point I'd like to clarify that will probably come out is around the schedules, right? So every drug that is available does get scheduled, so that when a country receives an application for it, it's already been scheduled, and we can then say when we authorize it, we have that schedule done. So when it's scheduled, it doesn't mean that it is a registered product.
Daniel, I want to come to you before we come back to you, Dr. Kathrada, because you've been waiting patiently, just to hear a little bit more about the AFRI forum and Dr. George Coetzee applications. What exactly are you seeking from the courts? What relief are you seeking on an urgent basis?
So we're heading to court to enable and specifically assist 2 particular patients who are currently diagnosed with COVID-19, and their treating physician is unable to prescribe ivermectin to them to treat COVID-19. And perhaps just to broadly, I think, convey the concerns of our clients is it's basically 3 legs, and the 3 legs are the past, present, and future. Why has SAPHRA taken, we're nearing the 1-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic. Why haven't any proactive steps been taken by SAPHRA regarding ivermectin, and why is it taking until January 2021 for them to now actually start thoroughly going through the research. That in the first place. When we talk about the present, the question is, what do we do at this particular point now that SAHPRA hasn't done anything for the preceding 12 months, and how do we deal with it? And that's why AfriForum and the two patients and Dr. Gutsia are heading to court, is to try and assist COVID patients at this very moment and to enable physicians to treat them effectively. And then when we come to what we need to do in the future is we're asking from SAHPRA, what steps will they be taking to expedite this process? And will they be looking at, Dr. Sameti acknowledged it herself, that it is safe for use in other countries. It has been approved in other jurisdictions. And I think it's important to note that it has been approved previously in South Africa and that the recognition in South Africa has merely lapsed. So why are we at this point where we're sort of in this lacuna where doctors and treating physicians are unable to prescribe the medicine with consent? And I think that's the important part. Nobody's advocating for, the widespread compulsory use of ivermectin. It's for physicians who are trained in their profession to make an informed decision with their patient on whether or not they